Hey everybody, it's me, dating expert Damona Hoffman, and I am here with Beccatica. You may remember her last week from my blog and from her blog, Beccatica.com. She is a single mom who is ready to hit the dating scene again, and I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about her story in case you haven't had a chance to watch the last video and you haven't read her very interesting blog about co-parenting and cohabitating. Rebecca, why don't you introduce everybody?
Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca from Beccatica.com, and I did just launch a fairly new blog about my life, my thoughts as an educator, as a mother. I have an interesting and somewhat unorthodox arrangement with my ex-husband. We decided 2 years ago to cohabitate so that we could co-parent more effectively, pool our resources, help the finances, and also just better support our kids. So in that, I kind of haven't been dating for the last 5 years since we've been divorced. It's challenging for a bunch of different reasons, but also I've just been really busy and not committed to it. So I finally made the decision a couple of weeks ago to commit to finally getting myself through the process of like clearing away the old and welcoming the new. So thank you, Damona, for walking me through this path, because it felt really scary to think about, like, oh my gosh, I've been out of the dating scene for 10 years. What do? I'm freaked out. So thank you.
Don't freak out. You have help here, and you're not alone. I know there are a lot of women listening who are in a similar situation with, having kids and having to date again when you don't have as much time. It's just a whole different game than when you were 20 years old. But I say this to let everyone know that it is very possible, and I worked with women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, all the way up to 80s, and there are plenty of great guys out there. We just have to find them. So I'm going to, I gave you some homework at the end of the last session. And so the homework was for you to think about the desired qualities that you had in a mate. And so I wanted to give you a chance to get it all out. Give me all the qualities that you want, but then we're going to whittle it down just to 3 must-haves and 3 deal breakers.
Okay, cool. It's funny because in the past, like when I used to write my lists, they were like 25, 30, 40 things deep, and there was a lot of superficial stuff on them. Like, it's got to be this tall, it's got to have, like, his hair's got to be like this. It was interesting doing this exercise because I was like, okay, none of those things really matter anymore. Well, not none of them. I want to be attracted. I want somebody who's handsome, that I really feel is sexy, and, somebody that I want to look at. But at the same time, there's so many more things that are important to me now, especially as like a mother of 2 and a professional and somebody who's like on her evolutionary spiritual path. Like, I just feel like so many things have shifted. So I hope that my list of 10 doesn't seem like, when I look at it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so California. People laugh at us for being all like yoga and juju, but it's totally California juju.
Well, see, the important thing, though, is to be able to visualize without judgment.
Right.
And when I actually did this exercise, oh my gosh, now I've forgotten how long it was, 13 years ago, I was working with a coach, and she had me just write all the qualities that I wanted in a mate. And I looked at all of these pieces of paper, and I was like, this person does not exist. And she said, don't judge it. Just put the vision out there and let that guide you towards your mate. And I ended up meeting my husband within, I think, about 6 months of doing this exercise. And I found the list of qualities months after, and I went through and I was like, oh my God, every one of these qualities is something that I would use to describe my boyfriend at the time, now husband. And so I think if I had put that judgment upon myself before I allowed it to exist in the universe, who knows, maybe I wouldn't have found him. So there's no judgment here, California or not. Let's just start with the 10, and we'll go from there.
So the first one was a conscious dedication to his own self-evolution, like somebody who's really introspective and reflective and on the path of developing themselves. So that was number one. Number two, somebody that's spiritually aligned, somebody that has some sort of practice. I'm not like a religious, not a religious confinement, but like you have to believe that there's something bigger than your own ego, or we can't really party. And then also shares my values, you know, like I think that's really important too. I don't want to be having fights over the big things. Like I want to be arguing because you left your socks on the floor and not because we fundamentally disagree on huge issues. Number three, somebody that's...
Rebecca, before you go on,
yeah,
I want to dig a little deeper on the shares my values.
yeah,
And try and identify what some of those values are, because I find that sharing values are one of the top 4 predictors in long-term compatibility. It's shared values, common goals for the future, communication, and respect. So those are the 4 things that you really need. But identifying what those values are is really important. So could you put a word to what some of those core values that you have are?
yeah. Compassion, somebody who's, you know, kind, conscientious, and thinks about others. A giver. I'm a big giver, so it's hard when you're the only giver and then somebody's the taker. So I need somebody to also know how to give. Somebody who believes in, you know, appreciating different cultures and folks with different trains of thought and can just be okay in their own sense of self around that. Someone that treats others with respect and treats them the way they would want to be treated. Generosity. Not to say you can't be practical about money, but not somebody like super cheap. Libras don't like that. Yeah, I mean, those are some of, I guess, the big ones.
Okay.
You know, I do believe in also like putting family as a priority, you know, and being on the team, keeping like intimate and private and sacred things sacred. Yeah, trust somebody I can trust, right? It's somebody that that has trust in others and also can receive trust in a responsible way.
Okay, good. Thank you for the specificity.
Okay.
It's important.
Thank you, Coach, for breaking me down.
And we're going to come back to it. So, okay, now we're on number 4.
We were on 3. So somebody worldly, kind of well-traveled, well-read, somebody that's been exposed to things. Like you can't not have a passport. If you don't have a passport, we can't hang out. Somebody that's lighthearted and playful and knows how to enjoy life. Like can be serious, but also knows how to be light. Someone who's committed and really looking for like a right-hand goddess, like not somebody who's still trying to figure themselves or figure out where they stand in their relationship to women, but somebody who's really like, okay, I'm doing the work on myself, like I want a roll dog. So someone who's financially stable, like has a career or is on purpose or either working towards building a career or building, you know, their purpose. Someone that really has a clear idea of who they are in the world and what they've come to do in this limited time that we call life. And here's where we get superficial. Someone tall, sexy, and passionate. No judgment, sorry, no judgment. But I'm 5'10", so, you know, the 5'6" folk, I love you, but I would love to reach up and not down.
Okay, we'll come back to that.
Okay.
I want to talk about that
later. I'm just being real with you.
I do want to be real. I do want to be real. But I also want to be real considering the dating pool. And you're 5'10", which already makes you on the upper end of the height spectrum for women. And the percentage of men that are you saying just your height, or are you saying you're saying taller?
No, I mean, I've dated people that are 5'9". I'm just saying, if you're 5 and some change, not as attractive as
sexy and passionate.
I just want a tall guy. You know what? You know what's infuriating? Like, my brother is 6'8". He is not a short guy. And by and large, right now he has a girlfriend that is tall. But like, by and large, he dates women that are like 5 feet tall. So it's an injustice. Like, these really tall guys love little tiny girls. And then us tall girls are like, really? I can't, you know?
And as a person who is 5 foot tall and married to someone who's 5'10" and a half, not the first time I've heard it, but I promise you, I was not trying to take the tall guys from you.
All the tall guys.
But we'll talk about that in a little bit. So I think my numbers might be off, but are we on 9?
Sorry, because I'm just like talking.
Well, a lot of these overlap a little bit.
Yeah.
And this happens a lot. Like, people think, oh, I have this huge list, but actually, if you really look at the qualities and what they add up to, sometimes you can synthesize it into 3 or 4 specific words.
Yeah. And I feel like this next one is a little redundant. So I just said a leader that's secure in his masculinity, but also able to like recognize and access more feminine qualities in terms of like listening and understanding, and somebody that really understands my nature as a woman. And we'll get to what I've learned about how I am in relationships in the past, but I've lost touch with that really ability to sink in and feel like a girl, you know, like I'm really strong and I've been really in my masculine for the last 10 years. And so it's going to be a practice for me to get out of that. And I'm going to need somebody who's sensitive to that, and that I don't need to lead or coach or drag, you know?
Yeah. And I'm glad that you said that, because I think a lot of women are in a similar situation where they're a boss in the boardroom, but then you get into a dating situation and you almost feel out of your skin because the behavior that you're practicing every day is to be strong and to demonstrate these leadership qualities and these qualities that are traditionally male. And so then if those are the qualities that you're practicing, your feminine mystique sometimes withers away and it's not accessible to you. And I'm glad that you used the word practice it, because a lot of times people come to me and they're like, I don't know why I'm having a problem. Like, I should just know, I don't know how to date, and I should just know how to date. But if you're not practiced at it, it is a skill like anything else. Like, I don't just wake up and say, I want to run a marathon tomorrow. I plan a system of, first I'm going to run 2 miles, and then I'm going to run 4 miles, and eventually you work up to the marathon. And I promise you, Rebecca, you are going to see that as soon as you start working these skills and building your flirting, your comfort with flirting and looking for options of men to connect with out in the world, you're going to see options everywhere. And I hope all the ladies listening as well will embrace this fact, because when you see the world as abundant, you will get abundance back to you. How's that for spiritual and introspective?
I love it. So California.
It's so true. It's so true.
Yeah,
I just heard an NPR piece about it the other day, and they were saying how when you visualize and you see abundance, you're basically programming your mind. So it may sound woo-woo, airy-fairy, but in reality, it's a neurological practice that you are engaging in. So you're training your brain for love, quite literally.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
It is.
Okay, are we on 10?
9. Trustworthy. Trustworthy and dependable. Oh yeah, I guess that can be 10, because I think I already said the number 10 thing that I wrote down was that he's moving in on purpose and in the direction that's like complementary or in alignment. I guess that's the second piece, is that it's something that I can actually get behind. Like, I don't necessarily want like a capitalist mogul that wants to take over the country. I want somebody that, you know, is having a life purpose or mission that's actually in alignment with something that I value, or my work, which is, you know, transforming the planet, working with kids, really elevating the level of consciousness. You know, I want somebody I can at least touch in their field of interest.
I got you. Yeah, and that goes to, I think, a shared value system.
Yeah.
So, is that it?
That's it.
Pika?
10, 15,
Okay.
5.
Here's what I see here. So we have introspective. I'm going to kind of synthesize what I heard. Introspective, spiritual, shares your values, which include kind of a cultural awareness, a respect for people, generosity, worldly, well-traveled, someone that's really doing the work to like be successful, to be someone who's contributing to society in a meaningful way. They're clear on their goals. They're a leader in their masculine, but they're understanding where you are in that sort of yin and yang. And they're trustworthy and dependable, and possibly tall, sexy, and passionate. Yes?
Yes, I like it.
Okay. So what all this says to me really is there were a couple of themes that I heard a couple of times. One, I think your commitment to being in a multicultural environment is one. So you need to be someone that can live within that world where you travel, you do pro-social activities, you engage in a multicultural environment. So they have to be someone that's comfortable in that space with you, correct?
Yes.
And that's something that's very specific, I think, to you, because a lot of people would not necessarily have that on their radar, but that's something that's core to your being. You want someone also who basically meets you halfway. You're very passionate, you're very educated, you're a go-getter. And so you need someone that matches your energy somehow on that level. So it doesn't necessarily mean that he has to be a six-figure baller on Wall Street or whatever. It's that he has a passion for what he's doing and he's successful at it to the best of his ability. Does that resonate for you? Okay. Meets your level of passion and focus. And of course, I mean, things like trustworthy and dependable, I kind of look at as core values that everyone should have. And so like there are certain things like being faithful, being reliable, being trustworthy. Like notice how I said the 4 qualities in long-term compatibility. One of them is having mutual respect. It's that you're able to problem solve together. You're able to communicate. So that's like a given. And anyone that demonstrates qualities that show him to not be trustworthy, he's going to just automatically be off your list, even if he's 6'5" and super successful and all of these other things. That is a must-have, okay? And then it seems like the other thing that I hear is the spirituality. And this is a really important factor in modern relationships. And I find that a lot of people want a certain level of spirituality or religion or a certain affinity, but haven't necessarily done the work that you have done to identify what that means to them. So it's really important that you know what spirituality means to you. And if it can come in different religions in different forms, then that's great. That opens up our possibilities. So if you could just define for me in a couple sentences, what does spiritual mean to you?
Well, I'm more of a universalist in terms of like kind of the core universal principles that are prevalent across religions. I think it's mostly just accessing like source, the connection to something higher than yourself. So it doesn't have to, like I said, be like you've got to be a yogi or you've got to be, you know, Buddhist or Jewish or whatever. But you have to understand that like the world doesn't revolve around you and your ego. You have to understand that we are all here for some sort of a purpose, to give a gift to the planet and be in active pursuance. Oh, is that a word? Pursuance? Did I make that up? Like active pursuance of that goal. Huh?
I think you made it up, but I like it.
I like it. It sounds good, right? It sounds like a real word. But like you've got to actively be pursuing higher levels of consciousness around yourself and your interrelationship with others and the planet.
Got it. Okay.
You don't have to have it figured out, but I mean, it would be really nice. Like, I don't profess to be like there, wherever there is, but it would be really nice to actually be in relationship with somebody who has experienced things or could teach me something, because I've never really had that, like in a partner, and be able to, you know, have really deep, like spiritual conversations and enlightened conversations about things outside of the scope of ourselves.
Yeah. I think that's a great, would be nice if. So there's the difference between must have, would like to have, don't necessarily need, but have an idea, have an attachment to this idea for some reason. So, so I would say like the multicultural, the level of passion and focus in their career and spirituality are your three core must-haves. Does that resonate for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Now on the height thing, I understand your desire to be with someone your height or taller, and it is something that's like a cultural programming that we deal with in the society. Like it has to do with the way you're treated externally and then the way that you feel when you're with that person. And you mentioned masculinity and femininity. So a lot of times I see in my work with women who are taller, when they're with a man who's shorter than they are, sometimes they feel like it makes them feel more in the masculine role at times. Does that sound like familiar to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just ask you, through our process here together, if you could just set that one aside into the would be nice to have category, as opposed to the must have category, and instead replace it with I must be attracted to him.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So he could come in a different package than you're expecting, but you must have some level of a high level of attraction to him. That's a given in any relationship too. You have to have these deeper levels of connection, but you also have to have the physical. But I do ask that you delay your judgment on the physical until the third date.
Okay.
Because I don't believe in love at first sight. It doesn't exist. That's lust at first sight. But you can develop a passion for someone that you might not initially feel a connection to. So, all right. Now we know who that guy is. Let's think of where that guy could be. What are the kind of places where this spiritual, cultural man might be in Los Angeles, where you live?
You're asking me.
I'm asking you. Let's do it.
I'm like, if I knew where he was. No. This is part of the deprogramming that I need to do and that I'm doing right now, is that like my story to myself has been like, where do the guys exist? Like I don't have anybody in my orbit that I'm like, oh yeah, him or him or him or him. I've like had straight up blinders on. And I feel like LA is the type of city too, where things are so in flux. And if you're not in on the like what's happening now or where to go or what's to what, like my Rolodex from 10 years ago kind of doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Like those places don't exist anymore. I don't know. Like the places I used to hang out that I thought were cool, I don't know. I haven't been hanging out.
Let's stay in the dream state. Like, let's imagine we don't have to talk in specifics like this, he would be at this bar. We can talk in generalities. Like, Well, he might be at a multicultural music festival,
Oh,
right?
okay.
He might be at a charity event for what kind of a cause would this guy? This is your fantasy guy. Let's picture him. What charity would he be
I mean, anything related to the arts, children, or education, like, light me up. So if he's at all passionate about helping kids or learning or expressing, then
Great.
you had me at hello.
What kind of activities might he do after work? Would he go to the bar?
No, no, definitely not the bar. But I love to dance. So that's one of my, would be so nice to have like a partner that actually liked to dance. So I don't know where you, other than the bar, the club, like where you find dancing people, like, I don't know if many guys take dance lessons. I haven't seen it as much.
Not that many.
I know.
But he might. So he could be at a dance club or a class, maybe. Okay.
I mean, maybe like my spiritual center, like where I go to church on Sundays.
Or at another spiritual center.
Yeah.
So, I think we talked about this on our last session, but if you are not seeing single people in your orbit, it might mean that you need to gravitate towards a different orbit. So he might be spiritual, but he might just not be in your particular spiritual group. So then the assignment would be to look outside of your particular spiritual group for other activities, events, centers where you might be able to go and explore. Okay, so we got already. What's that?
Maybe at the airport.
Maybe at the airport.
I like to travel. If he's worldly.
Although that's an expensive thing to.
You might be the stranger in the seat next to me on the way to Spain next month.
Expensive research to do, but you never know. Okay. Well, and that you could have an assignment regarding that, but I find a lot of times people don't speak on the plane anymore. And like I just flew back from recording my show in New York, and I ended up sitting next to this woman, and we talked for like 3 hours. Like, we're new best friends. And I'm like, most people would probably have just sat there, quietly and not engaged with the person next to them. And I ended up hearing a really interesting story. And that's the idea that I want you to embrace as you're going out there into the world. You're just hearing people's stories, and you're seeing who you connect with, what stories you connect with. And that's going to be the first part of this exercise. Like, not necessarily looking to find, like, is this guy my soulmate? Is this guy my soulmate? It's like, can I just hear someone's story, and do I connect with something here? And let that be the starting point. And it's less daunting then, because if you're going at it, going like, I have to go to the spiritual center because I have to meet my guy because he could be here. It's going to put a lot of stress and pressure on the situation that will probably make you not feel totally like yourself, and will actually probably put up the blinders more than open up the possibilities, right? Okay, so we now have like 4 places where Mr. Right might be. Now I want to do something called the connector circle. Yeah. So your connector circle are all the people in your world who might know the kind of men that you would like to meet. So these might be coworkers. These might be parents of your children's friends. These might be other people you know through your spiritual community. But I'd like for you to think about, I mean, I don't want to call people out necessarily on our video, but I want you to just visualize for a second this guy that we're trying to meet. And then I want you to write, you have a piece of paper in front of you, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, draw a big circle and write your name in the middle of the circle. Okay. And then I want you to draw like at least 5 spokes out from this wheel.
Okay.
Now picture that guy and think of one person in your world who would know a guy like that, who you think might have those kind of friends. Never mind like whether they're single or whatever, just who kind of operates in that sort of orbit. Or who do you know that knows a lot of single guys? Okay. Can you picture one person? They don't have to be your best friend. They could be someone you only know.
Yeah, like one person.
Say that again?
One person came to mind like immediately.
Okay, you don't have to say this person's name, but tell me like how you would know this, how you know this person.
Oh no, I'll tell you. It's my sister.
Okay.
But then I had like, she's out in the world a lot and she does a lot of work with different people. So, and I think she knows me well enough that if she were to come across my guy, she'd be like, oh, you know. So yeah, I mean, she knows a lot of different type of people too though. So I don't know like if my guy is floating in her crazy pants big orbit of people, but she's kind of like the first person that would come to mind.
Good. Well, and she doesn't have to know the guy. So yeah. I want to switch the language to knowing potential options for you. And remember, we talked about how we're practicing right now. We're just getting your flirting skills attuned again. So it's not necessarily that she needs to know that very person. Right now, we're just getting you out into the world and getting you practiced at dating. Yeah. So I'm going to give you...
She invites me to like art openings and like cool things that she's doing around the city. Like she'll always call me and be like, want to come? So.
Now, have you ever asked her to set you up on a date before?
Not really. She's tried. It didn't go too well.
What was wrong with those dates that she set up for you?
The guy just wasn't emotionally available. So it just was like, couldn't get past a certain block, you know?
Mm-hmm. So I find a lot of times the first level of people that in your connector circle that you go to, you may have asked them, hey, would you, if you know anybody, will you set me up? But the problem is that we're not, a lot of times people do not program their connector circle to make connections for them, the right kind of connections. So I would encourage you to take these 3 must-haves to your sister and say, I'm looking for someone who is this, this, and this, or pick 2 of the must-haves. And that way, when she's out at these events and she's meeting people, she can have you top of mind. And that way, it's like you're sort of programming her to keep her antenna up for you. Because if you say, if you ask someone just, hey, will you set me up? They're going to set you up with whoever they think is a good fit, right? So if you want to give her now you've done this work to be really specific on the kind of guy that you're looking for, that will help her make a connection for you. Does that make sense? I would also love to have you, after the session, go a level deeper with this exercise and come up with 3 or 4 more people that maybe are like outside of your immediate circle, people you don't necessarily see all the time. And think of, like, fill in this circle that we drew with other connectors that might know those kind of people. And I would encourage you to at least make 2 asks in the next week. We're going to be doing this just about weekly, right? So make 2 asks where you say, without embarrassment, without shame, I'm ready to start dating again. Repeat after me. I'm ready to start dating again.
I'm ready to start dating again.
I would love to meet a guy who is.
I would love to meet a guy who is.
Fill in the blank. Go ahead.
Multicultural, worldly, well-traveled, well-read, someone that shares my passion and drive for his work and transforming the planet, and someone that has a spiritual practice and is really connected to his own sense of self and the connection to source.
Awesome. Do you know anybody like that?
Do you know anybody like that? Doesn't your husband know anybody like that?
Possibly. And then they'll say, I'm not sure, or let me think about it and get back to you. Yeah. And you might make 10 asks and get 2 introductions, but that's 2 introductions that you didn't have, and that's a start. And that's a more effective way, I find, for asking for setups than just kind of putting it out there and leaving it up to chance. It's a more targeted way. So I think we're coming to the end of our session for today. I really wanted to get clear on who this guy is. And the next assignment, I want you to get clear on also what you bring to the table in a relationship. I know you started this work a little bit over the weekend, but I'd love for you to continue thinking about what do you have to contribute in a relationship. And the way that I'd love for you to access that is by doing something called a living vision. Have you ever worked with this?
I've done vision boards, but no, you kind of explained it's a narrated form, like a vision board.
Yeah, it's like a narrative vision board. So I'm going to have you picture yourself a year or 6 months in the future with this dream guy. And what is it like to wake up next to him, maybe a year considering your current living situation, right? But picture yourself out when you're living that perfect life with that perfect guy. And how will you enhance his life? How will he enhance your life? What will it feel like to be in his arms? What will it feel like to wake up next to him? What will it feel like to know that you have someone that is there for you and loves you unconditionally and respects you and honors you and cherishes you and all of the things that you dream of? What will that feel like? I want you to really feel it in your body when you're writing it. So that's the next assignment. And then after that, we're going to get into some more specifics. We'll talk about online dating, which those who follow me at damonahoffman.com know I believe it's the most powerful tool in your dating toolbox. So I want to make sure that we're using online dating effectively. There's a lot of people that are on dating sites that are not getting results, and they're very frustrated. And it means that if you're frustrated with the dating site, it means you're not on the right site or you're not doing it the right way, or both. So that's what we'll do next. And then we'll just get you out there and dating, and then we'll start talking about what's coming up for you as you're meeting these guys. Okay. Do you have questions for me, Rebecca, of Beccatica.com?
No, I really loved how we were able to distill those 3 things down and how you could hear in all of my the essence. So thank you. That was really powerful. And now I do have a language for putting it succinctly for people, which I think is important. So good. I'm excited I'm going to think about who else I know. Like a couple of other people are popping in my mind. And I was like, oh, they're really cool. Like they probably know some cool people.
And you're so, you're such a powerhouse, Rebecca, and you're so successful, and you're such a force that sometimes a lot of people might think like, oh, she's already got it handled. She doesn't need any introductions from me. And sometimes if you don't ask for, I don't want to say the help, but if you don't reach out your hand and say like support me, community, connector circle, people won't necessarily offer it up. And one thing I really aim to do is to take the shame out of singlehood. There's nothing wrong with being single. There's nothing wrong with asking someone to make an introduction. There's nothing wrong with going out there and dating and finding the mate that helps you fulfill your highest purpose. So the more that we embrace that, and I just really honor you for going through this process so mindfully and just so openly, and sharing your journey at Beccatica.com so that everyone that is in that same situation can can really feel what you're feeling and go through this process with you. I think it's a really brave thing. And I think it's a really great gift that you're giving yourself and everybody that reads your blog.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Adam.
You're welcome. All right, the journey is just beginning. So you got to do your homework, girlfriend.
I'll be doing my homework, and we will be back next week with my vision.
Can't wait. All right.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.